Things Podcast, your gateway to the trends and tropes of the horror genre. Episode 59.
What are we talking about tonight?
Well, first off, I'm Eric Lee.
And I'm Mike Campbell.
There we go.
A fan of plants.
Plants.
And all living creatures.
We're happy Arbor Day, everybody.
Yeah. Or happy, maybe belated Arbor Day.
Well, we're recording an Arbor Day, so I am claiming Arbor Day.
Yes. We are channeling the spirit of plants of yesteryear.
This is vegetarian horror. If the roles were reversed, but this time the plants are going to eat us and supposed to the other way around. Yeah, I think this is kind of it's a fun oddball one. I think I was sort of stumbling across this when Mike had made mention to me a while back. It's like let's think about holiday horror, and it's like, oh, what's a holiday that doesn't have a whole lot of horror stuff associated with it, and
that would be Arbor Day.
Yeah, well, Mike managed to find. I think Easter had what was that? Beaster Day.
Beaster Day, yes.
Oh, an absolutely hysterically bad trailer.
I'm going to go out on a limb though, and I'm going to say Arbor Day is the least scary holiday there is.
Less scary than I mean,
less scary than Valentine's Day for sure.
What about Labor Day?
Yeah, if there's anyone out there listening who can hip us to a Labor Day film that is horror adjacent or horror related,
yeah,
that would be great.
Yeah, you get the prize. But
yeah, and we're not talking about a West Virginia mining documentary.
Matawan or something.
Yeah, right.
It's like, oh no, the mine collapsed and everybody's dead.
That is not horror.
We will reserve the full-on horror holiday thing for a later episode because we are limiting it this time.
It's coming.
Yeah,
it's coming.
And I think that what we'll have to do is we'll have to come up with something for like a Memorial Day or what's a movie that wouldn't. I'm sure that we could do Memorial Day, Veterans Day is like some sort of a Johnny Came Marching Home kind of a thing.
Oh yeah, absolutely. Yeah. There's war is horrifying. Labor is not horrifying.
The funny thing, with the Arbor Day bit is that there are actually a lot of movies where plants are horror elements.
I wouldn't say a lot.
There's a few.
There's
some
a handful.
of them are really, really bad.
And we will be talking about all of them tonight.
Yes, because it's like sometimes when we're talking the gateway, we're not necessarily talking about the best films. Sometimes these are a little bit of warnings, and sometimes you might be a fan of really bad movies.
Well, and we're still talking the gateway. This just happens to be a very, very, very small hole into the gateway.
It's like if the pickets were maybe an inch and a half apart.
This is the keyhole into the gateway, not the full door, just the keyhole. Yeah. So, do you have any latent plant related fears, or do you get spooked in the woods? Have you ever been spooked in the woods? Have you ever been afraid of your average everyday house plant?
I have. When I was young, I was asthmatic due to grass pollen.
Oh.
And so I would always, always be nervous come June in the Willamette Valley. People in Oregon, we are the grass seed growing capital
of the world.
And it becomes something of a yellow fog down here in June. Late June and May.
That's funny though that you would be terrified by the end of the school year. School's out.
Everybody's going out to play, and I have to stay inside.
I need a HEPA filter,
and I had to wear a mask, and I had to have allergy shots. And, so it was a cruel joke on me. But
I think there's a direct through line from you wearing a mask and now being a horror podcaster. All these years later.
That's right. And there's something latent in my system that wanted to come out and just talk about plants. God damn grass. What about you, Mike?
It's funny that you have that perspective and that attitude towards plants, because what I found, which was kind of interesting, was the plants are largely the plants that are portrayed in horror films are largely pretty passive. They largely just want to be left alone. On occasion, they do get injected with a bit of the evil, but more often than not, it's sort of man's dominance over nature that comes to play, and the plants strike back when forced to confront, man's dominance over nature.
Yeah.
And it's not just a sort of a simple Mother Nature kind of thing. It's not just like Mother Nature trying to rebalance the equation. It in fact largely all the horror films I came up with in the plant genre, man takes the first step. Man is the one that creates the conflict. They're the ones that propagate the conflict with the plants.
Yeah,
well, and the plants are just like, leave us the hell alone.
Well,
we don't need this.
And that's what you would expect out of plants, to be honest, right? I mean, that's something that's, I think that's what's so iconic and alluring about a Venus flytrap, is that it is it's the carnivorous plant that actually takes action to capture its prey. And I think
have you ever owned a Venus flytrap?
I had a pitcher plant when I was a kid.
I've taken like a Darlintonia.
What I don't Darlintonia?
Yeah. It's a plant that's, I think, somewhat related to
check out the science on Mr. Campbell.
To the Venus flytrap. And it is a plant that is endemic to the great state of Oregon the wetter coastal regions of the state. And it's really cool because it has a lot of the same effect where the bugs get attracted by the
sugar,
the sugar scent, and then they crawl up into it, and then it's got this sticky inside, and they can't get out.
Yeah, well, I mean, as a former sweet tooth myself, I can sympathize with the bugs. And I think there's actually a store up here. Actually, one of my favorite shops in Portland has carnivorous plants for sale. You can buy Venus flytraps.
Where is that?
This is Paxton Gate.
Oh yeah.
So this is where if you're ever fortunate enough to stumble across Casa del Eric up in Portland, Oregon, you'll find that I have a collection of fossils, pickled critters, skeleton pigeons. I got a bunch of weird stuff, and it all came from Paxton Gate. I got a bunch of bugs on the wall.
Eric's about 2 steps away from being Leatherface. I have purchased many a Venus flytrap over the years and successfully killed, not in a malevolent fashion, but just pure by dumb luck, killed every last one of them.
Oh,
they're hard to keep alive. I think you have to have a really. I think you need. It's a much warmer climate kind of plant, and you got to have a lot of steam running through the air. And well, that's not how I roll.
And if any of you have successfully actually managed to preserve and nurture a Venus flytrap, we're very interested, because apparently Mike needs some coaching in the way of carnivorous plants.
In addition to hipping us to the latest and greatest horror film that is your favorite horror film, we will also take plant care tips as well.
Yes, absolutely. And so, that's a part of the Patreon privilege. So,
that's right.
All right. Hey, Mike, let's...
But we are not talking tonight. We're not talking about plant care.
No. No. Well, these are plants looking to get their own, right?
Yes.
So, I think... I actually came up with, and I don't know if Mike had actually checked out my Arbor Day posting, where I have a list of 15 movies featured.
I did look at your Arbor Day posting, because it was posted
No, it was like after midnight.
It was posted today.
It was posted today.
I did look at it, and interestingly, I do not have any of the films on that list. I'm almost entirely certain.
Okay,
maybe one. I can't remember.
So so you managed to dig. So I'm going to have to amend my list.
I did not commit the entire list to memory.
So so I think I'm going to have to cannibalize the Campbell selections.
Oh yes, you will. There's going to be one film that has shot straight to the top as one of my favorite films.
Awesome. All right, so we're holding out that one for number one. But
That's
why don't
right.
you go ahead and let's start with your number 4 and your fearsome foursome.
All right. This is a film. I actually read the book first. And this is of course a film came out in 2008. We've talked about this in the past. This is The Ruins, which is a supernatural horror film directed by Carter Smith. Basically features two young American couples, Jeff and Amy, Eric and Stacy. Sounds wholesome enough.
Sure.
They're down in Mexico having a little spring break party where they run across a German tourist named Matthias. The interesting thing, which I did not know, is that I went and looked, and the whole, of course, the whole film, as is the book,
Right.
is all set in sort of like the Mexican jungle.
Sure. It's a Yucatan ziggurat that they stumble across.
Right. The whole film is shot in Australia.
Really?
Yeah. True story.
Huh.
So anyway, the German tourist is he is looking for his brother Heinrich, and Heinrich has disappeared in the jungle. And he thinks he knows his last known location was at this weird archaeological dig site at this Mayan ruin. And they are joined by after a whole lot of partying.
Yeah.
Like partying. These people are hung over, strung out, whacked out, bloodshot eyes,
And then,
crippled livers.
hey man, you want to go check out a ruin that's out there that nobody actually goes to see?
Yeah.
I've got a secret inn.
Yeah, the thing that's great about this is like the perfect cautionary tale of strike one, strike two, strike three in bad decision making.
Yeah.
It's like, should we stay a couple extra days? Sure. Do we know who Matthias is? No.
Is he a local?
No. Are we totally hungover? Completely. Do we know what we're doing? Absolutely not. Let's go.
Yeah. What could possibly go wrong?
So the group arrives. They reach the ruins of this Mayan temple, and they're confronted by a whole series of Mayan villagers who obviously don't speak English. They have guns and bows and arrows, and Matthias, the German tourist looking for his brother Heinrich, he tries to explain to through a whole series of pantomime, he tries to explain to the villagers, the Mayan villagers, like what their purpose is there. They're not buying it. The Mayan villagers basically chase them all the way up to the top of the ziggurat, to the pyramid, where things start to go completely wrong.
Yes.
The thing I really enjoy about this film is that it's really kind of like, it's like the whole film takes place in two locations, really. The top of the ziggurat, inside the ziggurat. That's it.
Well, and the party beach.
Well, but that's only like
intro.
10, 15 minutes at the intro. Yeah.
Yep.
But it really all takes place in one place, so it creates this really sort of very confining kind of space, like an Alien or a Deep Star 6 or a Leviathan, and it's like you're stuck in this place, not because you're stuck in the place. Conceivably
they're
you could
trapped both within and from without.
Right,
because they're surrounded by the villagers, the angry natives.
Right. Yeah. The angry natives are basically camped down at the base of the ziggurat of the pyramid, and like if they try to get out, it's certain death, and so they have to figure out how to get out. They of course. I'm not going to ruin the film. I'm not going to go too deep into the film, other than to say the claustrophobia that's created by this, very limiting series of choices in and around the ziggurat. They at some point they hear a cell phone coming from inside the ziggurat
After someone has fallen down in there.
right? And so they decide, okay, we need to go down in there
This was
and get
sheer brilliance. This part.
and get the cell phone, because and then we can make a call, we can get rescued, everything will turn out well. Of course it doesn't.
It's a ruse.
It is a total ruse. Shockingly, the vine creature that the Mayans worship, or were sort of led to believe that the Mayans worship, the vine creature that inhabits the interior of the pyramid ziggurat, is absolutely relentless, is absolutely bloodthirsty. It is ready to tear into whomever comes close to it.
it's a very gory movie.
Well, that's what I was just going to say. That was the shocking part. Was not that there's this weird vine thingy. It's crazy gory. It is like some gore that I've never really seen before. There's a point at which they have to. One of the guys gets infected by basically the vine thingy essentially just kind of like punctures your skin and essentially just crawls straight in under your body. And the one guy he gets infected, and they decide that the quickest and easiest way to deal with it is to just amputate his leg right there. And so they are hacksawing away at this poor guy's leg with no anesthesia, no nothing. While, I mean, the gig is up. He was already super infected.
No, they had no clue as to what they were up against.
No, the director, a guy named Carter Smith, said, which I thought was really cool and very telling about why the film is so attractive. He said, if the audience is going to buy that this vine moves up and can get into your body and all that, the world of film has to be absolutely realistic. We took elements from lots of different real-life plants when designing our vine, and in practically every single shot, the film after the characters reach the hill, so it has to look like something that could really be growing there. But it also has to look menacing once you realize what it is capable of doing. And so all of this stuff mostly is shot with practical effects. Yeah. It's not, there's not a lot of CGI. I mean, there's a pinch here and there.
Yeah.
The other thing, the other thing is that the ending is crazy dark.
Yeah.
Crazy dark. I will say one person does get out, but in getting out, it's she effectively attracts several other people. And it's sort of like the cycle of sacrifice continues on.
Yeah, and I think that was it. It took the flavor of the Aztec sacrificial. Although I think that the villagers didn't want anybody coming off because of what they might spread.
Right. Exactly. No, that's exactly right.
But of course they don't even speak. These locals don't even speak Spanish.
Right.
They're indigenous tribes folks, and I thought it was extraordinarily spooky. I think great book. This one actually was
movie
on my list. This was my number the third one.
Was it okay?
It's not on my fearsome foursome because guess what? I kind of suspected you might pick this one, but I think it is the most terrifying use of plants throughout a movie.
Oh,
I mean, there are other movies that effectively use plants as scare tactics.
Yep.
But this one, where it's the primary driver, hard to beat the ruins. An underseen movie, sometimes I think forgotten in the shuffle. I think because it came out in the
2008.
Yeah, and which was not.
It did do pretty well at the box office. The budget on it was $8 million.
Okay.
And the box was 22.3.
All right. Yeah.
So it did well.
They didn't franchise it. Thank goodness they didn't franchise it. Actually,
yeah, ruins too. Although you know what, it would be easy to do, and it would be easy to continue that story on. Yeah. You could run that in so many. Hollywood, are you listening?
Yeah.
You could run that in so many different directions. The last thing I'm going to say about the ruins is, we often talk on this podcast about the fact that you got to care about the protagonist. The protagonist has to make sort of sane, rational decisions. You have to buy into their decision-making process. And largely in all cases, I bought into all the characters, all their decision-making. And I really, even though they were kind of these like sort of reckless college students who were out to party and have a good time, I mean, they weren't. None of the characters were evil.
No,
none of the characters were bad. They were all painted with the sort of same generic college student pastiche, but they all made decisions that I could easily see myself making.
They were sympathetic protagonists for sure.
Absolutely.
And you go, I would have probably done something similar. I would have fallen for the same ruse.
Oh, totally.
That cell phone thing, that is crazy shit.
Yep.
I love that part.
All right, number 4 on your fearsome foursome list.
Well, number 4 on mine, I've talked about this once before, but I haven't gone on to great length about it. I think I'm gonna revisit 1963's The Day of the Triffids. So,
Ooh, yeah.
I think
We talked about this in the 1960s, the early 1960s podcast.
Yeah, and I think that this was
on your list.
It was on my list. Yeah, and it's the influence of Day of the Triffids, particularly in British horror cinema.
Mm-hmm.
You know, I think you can see direct descendants of it, particularly in things like 28 Days Later. You can see some of it in Night of the Living Dead. Even, I mean, this is like it's the plant apocalypse,
right?
Or the other one,
if you were to merge those two, plant and apocalypse together, would it be?
It's plant apocalypse.
Plant apocalypse.
Yeah, and you know, there's another movie that was a cheesy 1984 movie called Night of the Comet. Do you remember that?
Yeah, I sure do.
Kind of a Valley Girl.
Yeah.
Kind of there's the comet shoots through the sky in this case, and everybody tunes in because it's supposed to be this great happening where it's like a Halley's Comet that drifts over that crosses over most of the globe. Everybody looks at it and they go blind. And so that was phase one of this insidious invasion. The second thing is that this comet happened to trail with it seeds of imminent destruction that came up in the form of these shambling vegetable critters that had these ropey tendrils, and they were flesh eating plants, right?
It's kind of a cross between kimchi and coleslaw
on a cone. I think what it did effectively is that they gave you a plant villain's like, okay, we're not going to do anything where the plant's going to move rapidly because
right.
That's not the nature of a plant to do something like that. But if by blinding the world's population of humans, it allowed them to sneak up and catch people because they're quiet and they'll shuffle their way over to you, and people will be stumbling around and they get nabbed by these triffids. And it takes several points of view from different areas in Britain where you had some survivors in a lighthouse, and they managed to make it because they were in the lighthouse trying to work some things out and prepping for the next day, and they missed the comet and they were disappointed, and then the triffids start coming out of the ocean and they start attacking the lighthouse.
Right.
There was also
but it's a very slow attack.
Yes, it's but it has like a zombie movie. Or like the Romero zombies.
There you go.
They are the on the unstoppable force.
Right.
And there's
a lot of them.
Yep. There was another sequence where there's a man who's in a hospital in a way that echoes 28 Days Later.
Oh, I thought you were going to say visiting hours, but that's okay.
No, not visiting hours, because visiting hours it was like
Bill Shatner joint.
But he's partially blind, but for different reasons. He was actually I think he's an ex-cop who's taken flash to the face, and he's coming out of it, but everybody else in the hospital went to look at the comet, and they've all gone blind and they've gotten nabbed. Right. And so he's sort of wandering around looking for other survivors. He finds a girl, and then they run into they can see the triffids going around, consuming people, and so there's shots of empty London with them in these kind of the funky old British, the post World War II rattletrap cars that they had. Right. It also felt a lot like there's a Doctor Who episode called The Seeds of Doom. I don't know if you've seen that. But
I have not. Was that a Tom Baker?
It is a Tom Baker one.
Oh, really? Yeah, well, I was taking a wild stab at that
because it was an early 70s.
Okay, the best Doctor Who.
Absolutely, and where there's essentially the vegetation comes up and starts consuming like a whole house, and it's like just gobbling up people like this tidal wave of vegetation. But it has the same kind of that British soundstage kind of an essence
aesthetic.
to it. Yeah, and so it's
So how do they kill the triffids? I don't remember.
Flamethrowers. Yep.
Plants don't like fire.
Yeah. So
they don't like chainsaws. They don't like fire.
The survivors scramble to Italy and they make a last stand. And I mean, our protagonists. There's probably other humans out there.
Right. Yeah.
At least the ones that you're following, they managed to fence off and flamethrower the triffids. So
how did Night of the Triffids turn out on our top 100? It did not make the cut.
It didn't make it.
Did it make the top 238?
Yeah, it was on there.
Was it really?
Yeah, I think it was.
Did you put it on?
No.
Okay.
I don't think so. It wasn't. But I think it was in the low 100s.
Okay.
And
give the Triffids some love.
Yeah, I think because it's influential. I think
Triffid love.
It's kind of spooky,
right?
And context, right? It's a British sci-fi horror. It was like another one.
It set off a mad dash to create lots of plant-based horror films,
or not. So that's my number 4. What have you got for your number 3?
Number 3 is an interesting little film from 1990. Directed by a guy named William Friedkin, who did this other movie a couple years earlier called The Exorcist.
Never heard of it.
Yeah, and this was his return. This was like marketed super heavily as his return to horror. This is a film called The Guardian.
Yeah. Right.
And it was, it's funny. It was actually, I just looked. It was actually released on April 27th, 1990, which I'm guessing they released it on Arbor Day.
Happy Arbor Day, everybody.
The opening cards in the film, there's like a whole series of like sort of fonted cards at the beginning where they say that the ancient druids worshiped the trees and sometime offering them human sacrifices, and some of these trees were connected with evil. It's it's funny because I really kind of like the film. Apparently Sam Raimi was originally attached to the project, but he backed out because he was doing Darkman at the time. But there's a scene at the end of the film, which I'll get to, that has some very, very Raimi-esque kind of qualities.
Sam Raimi likes himself some evil trees.
Yes, he does. And the other thing that's kind of interesting about it is that William Friedkin, who I think is somewhat of a prima donna, maybe well-deserved prima donna.
Yeah.
He was not super plussed with the way the whole thing came out.
Aww.
And he when they recut it for like the cable and sort of a made for TV version, he just said, just take my name off of it. I don't want my name on the film at all. And so they credited it to Alan Von Smithy as the director.
Oh no!
Yes,
it's a true Alan Smithy.
Yeah, true story. The film basically involves a young couple with a newborn baby who go out and they hire a nanny. Nanny is one of the tree worshipping druids. The evil tree worshipping druids. And early on in the film, not this couple, but another couple.
Damned hippies.
Yes, you realize that she's abducted a baby, and then she basically feeds the baby to the tree, and then the tree sort of like swallows the soul and the body of the baby, and then the baby kind of appears sort of
knot in the tree?
as a knot in the tree, but you can kind of faintly make out that there's a baby in that tree. The tree itself was constructed by a special effects department in Burbank, and then it was transported to this nature preserve in Valencia. It looks, I mean, the tree is like massive. I have no idea A, how they created it, and B, how they moved this friggin' thing to this nature preserve.
Friedkin thing.
Yeah, this Friedkin thing. I have no idea how they got it there, but it is massive and it looks completely out of place in this nature preserve. I mean, it's like a 500-foot tall oak tree,
and walking around, it's like, yeah, fake tree. Did it look fake, or did it just look out of character?
It looked out of character. Yeah, it just doesn't fit with that specific, climate and topography.
So I this one was one that I was not aware of.
What? You didn't see it in 1990?
I don't know. It was like
the return to William Friedkin.
When did you
I
see
saw it
it?
in 1990.
You did? Okay. Yeah. No, I did when that one got past me. So what is why is it called The Guardian?
Well, so the woman is the guard. She's sort of the guardian of the nanny is the guardian of the tree. She's the one that protects the tree by feeding it babies, and only babies.
So what does the tree give back?
The tree gives back nothing.
Oh, it's just a tree for sacrament. It's like,
yeah, it's just this ancient evil tree that needs to be constantly fed. There's some great kind of tense moments where they play off, the parents of a newborn child dealing with all the complexities and uncertainty behind, raising a child, what that all brings to the table. And then, this somewhat peculiar but sort of hyper attractive young nanny who does some peculiar things with the child. There's one point at which the dad gets up, he can't sleep, and then he goes down to where the nanny is, and the nanny is in the tub, naked, like with the baby, and she's giving him a bath in the middle of the night, and she explains very casually that, he got up and he wanted to play, and I thought it would be a good idea to just give him a quick bath, and I'm so sorry about that. She is the woman. I can't remember the actress's name, but yeah, she is
IMDb.
She is naked for a good chunk of the film.
Excellent.
Yes. The film, of course, ends with and the Raimi-esque portion of it is that the mom sort of is going to blows with the nanny, who has now sort of morphed into kind of like a half sort of tree creature.
Oh.
But the dad peels off and he goes down to the tree with a chainsaw, and he is hacking and slicing his way into the tree.
And does it cut through a bunch of babies?
No, but it starts to affect her. So every time he cuts the tree, it begins to affect her. Roger Ebert was not a big fan of this film, and he put it on his most hated films list. What another critic said, Friedkin opts for upfront hokum interspersed with impressively ridiculous special effects, including man-eating trees, flying nannies, carnivorous chainsaw carnage, and a severely flawed but not amusing venture from a director who should know better. The actress who plays the mom, I believe it's the actress that plays the mom, Jenny Seagrove, said of the film in retrospect, "I don't want to put off anyone from watching it because it was good fun." But she noted that during the first screening, there was a feeling in the room that it wasn't the sort of picture that everyone had hoped it was going to be.
And William Friedkin's return to horror fell on its face.
Right, and he kind of never went back, really. I mean, well,
I think he's still living off the plaudits of The Exorcist. I mean, to this day, I think he did a big thing down in L.A. off of.
Yeah, I mean, he has done. I mean, the guy's been around forever, and he has done a lot of really great films. And if you are listening, Mr. Friedkin, we would love to have you on the podcast. But yeah, it's I liked it. But it does. I will say this. It has a very late 80s, early 1990s kind of quality about it. And so if that is something you want to go back and relive, go watch 1990s The Guardian. What do you got number 3 on your list?
Well, this is called Taking One for the Team.
What?
I
just took one for the team.
I
watched The Guardian.
No, okay. All right. So I watched a little 2008 movie from M. Night Shyamalan.
Oh, I know what you're talking.
This is it is one of the most laughed at movies of the past 20 years.
Because it's got Marky Mark and the Funky Bunch.
Yeah, this is The Happening.
just Marky Mark.
Yeah,
No Funky Bunch.
No Funky Bunch, unless you call John Leguizamo a funky dude sidekick. This is, watching this, the opening sequence had promise.
Oh yeah.
Because it opens in Central Park, New York City, and there's a number of people who are, it shows it's an active, lively day, and there's two women on a park bench, and they're just having a little conversation, and then one of the women goes, "Huh, that's funny. Hey, look at everybody. Just sort of they stopped. What's going on? Is there?" And then her friend had frozen too. And then her friend takes out a knitting needle from her hair and then jabs it into her neck. And
right.
It's like, oh my God, she's killing herself. And then they cut to a scene where a bunch of construction workers are just talking shop, and then one of their coworkers falls and then comes crashing to the ground. It's like, oh my God, Mike killed himself. and then and they scramble over, and then there's like 3, 4, 5. It's like. It's raining construction workers.
No, it definitely drew heavily from a lot of those great 70s films like Blue Sunshine and God Told Me To, and like where it's like people are doing
mass hysteria,
doing super weird shit that's completely unexplainable.
Cut to
Mark
Wahlberg as a science teacher.
And the Funky Bunch. No Funky Bunch.
No Funky Bunch here. He has, I think, the reputation of Mark Wahlberg with the going total deer in the headlights looks like, what? No, this is that movie, right?
Now, did you see this? Did you see The Happening when it came out?
Not when it came. I think I saw it when it came out on. I think I rented it on DVD a while ago.
Okay.
But I did watch it again for posterity.
Sure.
Taking one for the team.
Okay, that's the taking one for the team part.
It's like this is. It is. They also have. I think this is a situation where Mark Wahlberg is a capable actor at times. And then you also have John Leguizamo, who can do.
He's great. He's a great actor.
Zoe Deschanel can act
pretty good,
but they're all. I think all three of them are dependent on having good directors who know how to execute dialogue.
Right.
Shyamalan has got the George Lucas problem. He's a story thinker, but he doesn't know how to handle dialogue. And this is him at his worst. You can't coach these. It's like they can't act their way out of a paper bag. It is really bad acting.
I was going to compare more to Rob Zombie in that I keep going back to the same well, going, all right, this one's going to be good. This guy knows what he's doing. This is the one. And then it's not.
Then The Happening. But for those,
although I did love The Visit. The Visit is a great film.
Well, and Split is good,
top to bottom.
Split is a very good movie.
Split is pretty good.
I loved McAvoy's performance in that. I think
that was a 2000. That came in
2016 or 17.
Yeah, that's right.
2017. But no such luck here.
Right.
I think the acting the lack of acting prowess from Wahlberg, Leguizamo, and Deschanel influences all the one-line actors. They come off stiff and wooden too.
Right.
It's just a cavalcade of bad acting, and it isn't helped with the most preposterous notion that like I think you were describing that nature strikes back.
Right.
I think in concept, I think the notion that Mother Nature is going to try and balance the odds, which sometimes I think there's for any neo-lefties out there, It's like, it's about time. Let's take back the planet, plants. It's sort of a red tide situation where the pollen goes out and it attracts itself to large populations of people, or supposedly so, and they do things like they'll run and they'll like cover their heads and try and run into a house, and it's like and this is where
Your mask and your HEPA filter.
Absolutely. It's like, just get yourself some mask and maybe a little of Veda Hist or
Eric will survive the plant apocalypse.
Yeah, because you just need some some antihistamines and you'll
The rest
be fine.
of us are screwed.
This was, and at the same time, it wasn't unwatchable because it was amusingly bad.
Right. Right.
And
well, I mean, his films are always really well crafted.
Yes.
It's just that sometimes the stories can be so god awful clumsy.
it is. This is his most ham-fisted
Right. Yeah.
twist, and you know, it never helps when the exposition of why this is happening comes from another bad actor. I don't know. I know the guy's name, but there were a couple of hippie folks who they have a greenhouse, and he goes,
Right.
you know, this might be a chemical compound because these plants, they actually can emit these chemical reactions to defend themselves. And it's like, you're going, what kind of bullshit is this? and you know,
These are thinky facts.
right. And then they stumble across the old lady's house where she takes them in, and she's disconnected from the outside, so she doesn't know that there's something bad happening out there.
Right. I think at some point we owe it to ourselves to do to rank all of his films.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Yeah. I think
we will do a whole podcast where we rank all of M. Night's films, top to bottom.
what has he got, like 11 films now? Something like that?
He's got a chunk of them. Yeah.
I mean, the Signs is out there.
Yeah.
We haven't talked about Signs much. I know a lot of people like Signs.
Yeah,
I'm okay with Signs.
Sure.
Lady in the Water.
Yeah. Village of the Damned.
Yeah. The Village. I think on its own, I think he outthinks himself.
Yep.
And this one, it was like, why is everybody killing themselves? It's the trees, and with these horribly unsubtle, like rustling of trees, and it's like, and then the wind kicks up, and it's supposed to make you nervous, and it's like,
Right.
that's just dumb. So, anyways, The Happening is one of those cringeworthy, almost so bad it's good movies. So
all right,
I took one for the team.
That,
You're number two.
That was very nice. So you took one for the team. I got weird for the team.
All right.
This is a film that I guarantee you have never heard of and you have never seen.
Okay.
I guarantee that most people listening to this podcast have never heard of and have never seen. This is the... Yes, what? Are you going to guess?
I was going to try and...
Take a guess. Just take a guess.
Man-Eater of Hydra.
Wrong.
Oh, damn.
You want another guess? Or you're going to stop there?
No, I'll stop.
Okay. This is a 1979 film called The Kirlian Witness, a.k.a. And this is going to be the only film with plant in the title.
Okay.
The Plants Are Watching. Kirlian Witness, The Plants Are Watching. And the thing I loved about this, loved, clocked in at 75 minutes.
There you go.
It was like tight.
Yeah. You can,
Tight 75 minutes.
You can catch that one right before you go to bed.
Exactly. Lori, the one of the main characters in the film, she believes, and there's really, the thing that's great is there's like 4 characters in the film. Lori and her sister's husband, and this guy Dusty, who's kind of a creep, and then Lawrence Tierney. I don't know if you remember Lawrence Tierney. He was in Reservoir Dogs. He plays like the kind of gruff old guy.
Right.
He was like the detective that they go.
You're Mr. Pink.
Yeah. That's Lawrence. Yeah, that was very good. That was very good, Lawrence Tierney. So anyway, Lori believes that it's possible to communicate with plants via telepathy, and she devotes her entire life and love to plants. So she has a plant store. And then upstairs, and they all live in New York, and then upstairs in her loft, there it is just like riddled with plants. And she spends her time talking and communicating with the plants, and then she records herself and records her reflections on communicating with the plants.
Okay.
How she does it, why it makes sense.
Damned hippies.
This is like crazy hippie 1970s, just super hippie nonsense. But she, the plants begin to warn her about her sister Rilla. Warn her about her sister's. I thought it was her boyfriend, husband, Robert. And the plants are like, this dude is up to no good. Now the plants don't speak,
but they watch.
They watch, and it's all sort of filtered through Lori's head. The next day, Lori is found dead up on top of their apartment building in New York City, up on the roof, and she is dead. The sister starts to do some investigating, and she finds she has to go to a bookstore and go to the occult section and get books on how to communicate with plants.
What?
Because apparently that's a thing.
It's a druid thing.
It's a druid thing. And she eventually learns through reading the books from the occult section and listening to the audio recordings that her sister Lori made about the communicating with plants, that it is indeed possible to communicate with plants. And she decides to take it two steps further.
She's going to try and command plants?
She goes out and gets a polygraph and connects it to the plants. And so that if she utters certain things or if certain people walk into the room, the plants will freak out. And the polygraph will go like off the charts.
Fun fact here. Actually,
Yes.
There is something that apparently Microsoft is trying.
What?
So Microsoft is trying to come up with something where you can identify what a plant communicating what it needs. Whether it needs water or whether it needs sunshine.
Well,
and there's a number of things.
Funny you mentioned that, because that's number 2 or B. The sister, Lori's sister Rilla, she decides to do is she investigates this concept known as the Kirlian effect, which is if you use certain photographic equipment and you take a picture of a plant or a person or a thing, it gives off a supernatural aura. Everything in the universe has a soul, a universal aura, and you can actually pinpoint through the colors that come out on the film slides. You can actually pinpoint whether the person is inherently good or bad, or whether they're actually connected in a good way. And so she starts taking pictures of the plants. She takes pictures of people's fingerprints. Like when they put their fingers down, she will take pictures of them, and then she gets a better understanding of whether or not they are inherently good or bad.
Okay.
Eventually, Rilla, the sister, learns the truth through lots and lots of research and the Kirlian effect and the polygraph hooked up to the main plant. I can't remember the main plant's name.
Dwayne.
Dwayne actually, Dwayne is kind of the hero of the story, but she does learn. She eventually learns who killed her sister. And
was it a human or was it a plant?
Do you want me to tell you?
No,
you're never gonna watch this film. Right. It was a human.
Okay.
The film, I will say, I mean, this film was really tight. It was low budget, but it was well done. It had a great soundtrack.
Okay.
It was kind of an interesting story. The way they played it was like super believable. I really kind of enjoyed it.
When did you stumble across this one?
Well, when I was researching
there you go. So,
plants and horror.
So it's new to you. Okay.
Yes. And it had two of the best taglines ever, and I'm going to read them right now.
Oh, okay.
I was going to save them for later, but I'm going to read them right now.
Do it.
Destined to become a cult classic. Beware. Scientific evidence proves that plants can read our minds. Beware. The plants know all. Beware. Watch what you say and do. Beware. There's been a bizarre death. Beware. The plants are watching.
Ah, sweet.
That was one.
Oh, that was one. All right.
Number 2. Based on a true occult event, this motion picture will scare you. You may never I can't.
Come on.
You
In a world.
you may never feel safe around plants again. Take the risk, but beware.
So oddly enough, it doesn't sound particularly scary, though.
No, the thing that's great is I looked up the director is a guy named Jonathan Sarno. This dude did nothing. He did a film in so he did this film in 1979. His next film was 1991.
Oh.
And then he did like 3 kind of nudie films in like the 2000s, and the most recent one he did was called Tribe Wanted Sierra Leone, which allegedly is a documentary.
It's like an Ebola thing or something.
Who knows?
Okay.
Who knows? Anyway, that was my number 2
All right.
on the Fearsome Foursome list. The Curlean Effect, a.k.a. The Plants Are Watching.
All right. You are absolutely right. I had never heard of that movie. Is that available streaming on Amazon?
You can stream it on Amazon, weirdly.
Okay. Well, Amazon goes for bulk, right? They'll take anything, and so it's
right.
There's always an odd shot that, because sometimes in order to get some of these movies, we have to go down to our local Movie Madness because they actually have a better catalog than Amazon.
That's right. I'm sure you could find a VHS copy of this for like $250.
Yeah. The movie that I threw out there I was trying to find out if it was the one that. My wild guess was Man-Eater of Hydra, which I know our new contributing author Joseph Perry. It's one of his favorite films.
Oh, well, there you go.
But it sounds kind of Day of the Triffids-y, kind of or evil plants in the jungle with a mad scientist growing them.
Yeah.
I couldn't find it anywhere, and I was like, maybe I should go down to Movie Madness, and I just didn't get the chance.
Oh, boo.
Oh well.
All right, so what do you got? Number 2.
Well, my number 2 is actually converse to what you just did, is a very well-known movie.
Oh, okay.
And this is Little Shop of Horrors from 1986. This is the Frank Oz directed musical with Rick Moranis and Bill Murray Steve Martin and John Candy. It is in the running for one of the best horror comedies. It is, I think, the absolute best horror musical ever done, and there's actually been some pretty good ones out there.
Phantom of the Paradise.
Phantom of the Paradise,
the dean of the horror scene talked about on the last podcast.
Right. So but I think that there's for a karaoke junkie like myself.
Yep.
Who can't resist a good jingle.
Yep.
Little Shop of Horrors is filled with them. It's got Suddenly Seymour, and then it's Dentist, and the title song.
That's
Feed Me.
The Dentist is the Steve Martin character.
Oh yeah.
Yeah.
Yes, and Bill Murray plays the Jack Nicholson role, because back in 1960 when Roger Corman did the movie.
Yep, it was Jack Nicholson.
Jack Nicholson is a very young man as the masochist who wants dental work with no Novocaine.
Right.
This time it's Bill Murray.
Right.
They're both fantastic.
How do you compare the 1980s version with the 1960s version?
The 1980s one is a musical.
Right. But I mean, do you how do you feel about them?
I grew up with the musical, and so I'm very fond of it. I think the 1960s one is. It is fantastic for what it was.
Right.
It was shot in 2.5 days for $27,000.
And it's got
got young Jack Nicholson in it, and the whole idea. I mean, the 1980s movie takes all the plot points where you have Seymour is the kind of loser flunky flower shop man who finds the funny little plant in the back of the shop, and he's lovelorn. There's He's fallen in love with Audrey, Ellen Green, who plays the one of the best ditzy blonde characters you could ever want. And he's fallen in love with her, but he's lamenting that she'll never fall for a guy like him when she has this crazy boyfriend Steve Martin, the evil dentist.
Right.
And he accidentally pricks himself on this funny plant, and it bleeds, and plant starts suckling off the blood out of his finger.
Right.
And it grows and it grows. And apparently then as soon as the plant starts moving and talking, everybody goes, "Oh my God, look what you found. You're going to be a superstar." The reason why the plant is growing is because Seymour is feeding people to his plant.
This is a cautionary tale.
Yes. So
this is a success-based cautionary tale.
Yeah, it's like
be careful what you wish for.
You put one foot into that, feeding the carnivorous plants. I think this is where you could have actually had a little bit more success with your Venus flytraps had you actually put some effort to put into your own blood into the equation.
Now, do you own the soundtrack to Little Shop of Horrors?
I have the Little Shop of Horrors on my on a playlist somewhere.
All right.
No, I think this is it is definitely light H horror, but it is no doubt about it. Because the Audrey 2 plant as a animatronic is spectacular. It's one of the all-time great puppet animations that's ever been done. It was like the fact that it would open its mouth and it would see all that gigantic tongue would come out, and then the vines would wrap, and it was I think it was something to behold. It was a beautiful looking monster.
Did Frank Oz physically have anything to do with the design and or the creation of
Jim Henson did.
Did he really? Okay.
And his son
Brian.
Yeah, Brian Henson was the animator.
Oh, okay.
So of course,
cool.
it helps that you're Frank Oz.
You got some pros running around the shop.
So this was the other thing is that there's an artist named Mike Plug who was a storyboard artist for The Thing, designed Audrey.
Right.
Based upon the original. Now the other thing about the original Little Shop of Horrors plant is it wasn't particularly dynamic.
Right.
It was comparably stiff.
Right.
Where this thing was. It was fully realized, and it sang. I mean, it was just, and it had that baritone, that "Feed me, Seymour." That's like it has this great personality. It's the movie is so much fun.
You know what's nice about plant-based horror is we're kind of like covering everything.
Yeah,
scary, not scary, silly,
stupid,
grotesque, horrifying, gory, all of it.
Yeah. So this is on the other side of the playground from the ruins. Audrey is an endearing plant as opposed to the plants from the ruins, which are going to get under your skin and destroy you from the inside out.
Yes. All right. My number one film that you have not heard of that we're going to watch.
Invasion of the Body Snatchers.
No, that we're going to watch after we finish this podcast.
Okay.
This is a 2008 film called, it is a 16-minute long film called Treevenge.
Okay.
This is directed by Jason Eisner and written by Rob Cottrell and Jason Eisner. They also worked together. Well, I don't know if they worked together, but Jason Eisner was credited with VHS 2, The ABCs of Death, and he was the director, or I think, he was the director for Hobo with a Shotgun.
Oh. Short film, huh?
Yeah, it's a short film. It involves Christmas trees being ripped out of their forest, plan revenge on people trying to enjoy the holidays. The film is shot initially in a Christmas tree farm, and so you immediately cut to all these trees and little seedlings and saplings kind of quivering and shaking, making these kind of like Ewok sort of noises, and it's subtitled under them. And then they keep transposing between that and these loggers who are like, I hate these fucking trees. We're going to cut these fucking trees down.
Okay.
I wish I'd stayed in school so I wouldn't have to deal with all this crap. And they are the scenes where the loggers are screaming and they're pissed and they are just cutting and hacking and slashing apart these Christmas trees. And the Christmas trees, subtitled, are like, why are you doing this to us? What did we do to deserve this? Why are you doing this to us? The film, of course, culminates on Christmas morning, where the trees decide enough, and they decide to take
Payback.
They decide to pay back everybody, and it is super duper over the top gore. And the film culminates. The end of the film is at the end of a cul-de-sac, where it's like total plant Armageddon.
Oh, sweet.
Where the trees are attacking people, stuff is being set on fire, everybody is bloody, and at one point the one of the trees actually, because the trees are because trees can't really walk, so they kind of hop, and the
like vampires do.
Yeah, sort of. And the trees are hopping around, and one of the trees hops on top of a baby and squishes it all over the place. And the film ends with this woman screaming at the trees from the top of her lungs, "You fucking fuck, you killed my baby, I'll kill you."
All right, so you got to promise me. Okay,
we are watching Treevenge.
We'll watch Treevenge. We've got to post this on as a horror short. Is this available on YouTube?
Yeah, you can check it out on YouTube.
We're posting this on posting this on our website.
It is one of the. It is so funny and so over the top and so ridiculous. I'm kind of surprised I hadn't ever heard of it or seen it. But the uprising of the Christmas trees, like you're sort of pulling for the Christmas trees, and in a weird way, I was watching it going, God, this is like, it's so incredibly wasteful that we as a culture decide to cut down all these trees
and don't do anything but dress them up.
We dress them up and then
burn them,
and then we set them on fire, or we throw them in the compost, or we put them in the garbage.
Yeah,
it's kind of
coming from the Christmas tree capital of the world.
That's right. But it's kind of an interesting twist in that the trees get they do get their revenge. They get their Treevenge. All right, number one for you, sir.
Okay, well, I'm taking a bit of a different tact from my number one.
Okay,
because, and I'm going to run past some that we haven't mentioned.
Oh, okay.
So
this is a greatest hits.
This is and okay. So my number one of my fearsome foursome is actually probably the inverse of best movie to worst movie. I'm actually going to go back to a real stinker, but one that is so much fun that I think everybody should actually go see it. It's been largely forgotten. I talked about it back when we did the back half of the 1950s podcast. Oh, however long ago that was. But I'm referring to the B movie classic From Hell It Came. This is so silly. It's Bali by the way of Burbank Backlot. It is a sometimes when they try and do the old B movies, they had so little budget that they tried to make the studio backlot look like a tropical paradise by planting a couple of plastic palm trees and surround it with some azaleas and it's like, look, it's a tropical jungle, and expect that the audience is going to buy it. The tree itself is there's actually it's a creature called the tabanga, which is something like it's like an animated foam finger or a Gumby doll. It is utterly ridiculous and almost a two-dimensional object with a bunch of creases put into it and a face carved out of it. Like it's kind of supposed to be a tiki god. He's terrible looking, but it's endearing because what the natives are trying to rid the island of some U.S. Scientists and military men who are down there to do nuclear testing and test the results, and the natives aren't really keen on having them around, and so they start to cast a spell to raise a god of vengeance in the form of Tabanga, and the Gumby doll. It starts out as a stump. It grows into a larger tree-like thing. But I don't think in any universe would anybody walking down the street actually mistake what they're seeing for a real tree. and it goes around and it strangles people, but it looks like it could barely hurt anybody. And in fact, there's the classic damsels in distress who will run away screaming in fear, and then they have to run to the monster and then lean into it so that the actor knows to grab them because he could probably barely see out of the suit. So this is not up to the snuff of your Creature of the Black Lagoon type of prosthetics and practical effects. This movie, it's so dopey and silly. It deserves to be seen. It should be on Mystery Science 3000. But alas, I don't think they've picked up on this one, and it's stunning. I would have figured that something so patently goofy would have earned a spot on that shelf. So anyways, there you go. That's my fearsome foursome. I had considered a number of other movies. I think, and you can go check out our website, www.scariestthings.com, 1T, where I go into a little bit more depth on some of the other plant-based horror movies, things like Attack of the Killer Tomatoes and Seed People, Man-Eater of Hydra, which is a favorite of our colleague Joseph Perry. The Thing from Another World, the original 1952 one, was actually, James Arness as a killer carrot, and scientists who wanted to study him, and the little seed podlings that came out, which was everybody in the audience knew that was a really bad idea. Creepshow, featuring Stephen King as Geordie Verrill, who's a lunkhead, as he describes himself in the movie, finds a meteorite which attracts all kinds of strange vegetation that essentially consumes him and his house. We have the Whomping Willow from Harry Potter and the Chamber of Secrets. Harry Potter fans out there, anybody? Hello? Scary movie folks, do you like Harry Potter? Anyways, great scary tree, Whomping Willow. Speaking of scary trees, Poltergeist. Everybody knows that Robbie Freeling, the youngest of the Freeling family, gets attacked by a tree from outside the window, and poor Robbie couldn't catch a break. He got attacked by his own clown puppet, and then the tree comes in and busts in and gets him. Oh, he's just but it lets JoBeth Williams go in and play superhero mom to go and rescue him and pull out to get Robbie out away from the clutches of the tree. I remember that though as a teenage kid going, oh God, that's freaky tree. Anyway, so that was great. The Evil Dead, of course, had 2 iterations of the rapey tree, and uncomfortable portions of that movie. And I think it probably was the scene that actually earned the Evil Dead the banned rating for Great Britain, because it was in such bad taste, but you won't forget it, and it puts trees into a whole new perspective, don't it? And then Fede Alvarez redid that scene later on after sort of the in 2013 when it's you can show a little bit more, and I think the expectations of the horror was a little bit different than back in 1981. And then I also talked about Invasion of the Body Snatchers. And if you hadn't seen it, what's wrong with you? You go see this. Either the 1952 or the 1977 movies both feature alien space pods that come down and copy people and mimic them. And it's one of the best paranoia science fiction tales that you'll ever run into. Great movies. And so that's the running list. If you know of any other Arbor Day movies, I think we've gotten a couple of other folks who've chimed in with some of their favorites. Would love to hear back from you guys if you think that we're missing something. I think I got a nomination for Godzilla versus Biollante, I think was one. So that I guess that qualifies as a horror movie. Big monsters, and certainly Biollante would be the most devastating of any tree or plant creature. And then the last thing that I want to talk about today is a little bit of grave digging, and it's thematic. The Swamp Thing is coming out as a television show, and it's going to be produced by James Wan for Warner Brothers. So it has some great horror cred. It's going to be based on, of course, the DC Comics title Swamp Thing. with that Alan Moore did one of the masterpiece graphic novels of all time, and the New 52 reissuance of the Swamp Thing, I think, which a lot of the story is going to be based upon, by Scott Snyder, who's also the author for some of the great Batman runs of recent vintage. So we're really looking forward to that. We know that they're actually going to do a sneak preview for the Overlook Film Festival, and that just got announced yesterday. So we're going to be actually we'll be able to get a chance to see that one for you, as well as a lot of other movies. And I know that we're going to get together, Mike and Liz and I are going to have a discussion about a preview of the Overlook Film Festival and what we're looking forward to, so that we can report back to you on all the fun independent horror movies and some of the bigger ones that are going to be coming down the pipeline for that. Stay tuned. If you live in the New Orleans area or within driving distance of of New Orleans, this is a professional convention. It's not quite like a fan festival. This is actually where a lot of production studios go to bid on movies that don't have a distribution yet, and so a lot of these movies will end up on Shudder. They have a huge presence there, as does IFC Midnight and Blumhouse and A24. So if you like yourself some good, high-quality independent horror, you can still get tickets. And we'll see you in New Orleans at the end of the month, and we'll give you a preview of that. So to close out today, here's a tagline from the M. Night Shyamalan classic, The Happening. We've sensed it. We saw the signs. Now, it's happening. But should it have? Ask yourself that. That movie sucked. We'll talk to you real soon.